What's going on, everybody? I'm Jerry, and I am back with my weekly predictions. Week 3 coming up. Looking at the couple you can see on the screen here, it looks like there's a lot of easy picks this week, and a lot of opportunities for trap games. So let's get right into it. Starting off, we have 49ers Giants. At 49ers, this seems like a very easy pick, especially if you didn't see the Giants come back against the expected to be worst team in the league, Arizona Cardinals. This one, pretty easy pick. Going with the 49ers. 49ers offense has just been too dominant, and their defense, one of the best in the league. Had some struggles last week against the Rams. Were able to give them some trouble. I don't see how this could be a trap game to the point where the 49ers can't take over. And I think it just every position. If you look at receivers, if you look at running back, especially with Saquon Barkley likely being out. Recording this one a little early, so I don't know what his status is, but he doesn't sound like he's going to be playing. So that's going to hurt the Giants' offense a lot. I don't think Matt Breida is going to be enough. Offensive line, defensive line, I mean, arguably defensive back, but even then I don't think so. I think the 49ers just win at every positional group, and therefore I think they win the game. Next up, we have Ravens and Colts. This one I expect to be pretty easy too, although I have been showing some promise and kind of been a little higher on the Colts than I expected going into the season, just with Anthony Richardson being kind of tough to prepare for. I think with the Ravens playing how they do and with Lamar Jackson, I think they'll be able to prepare for him just fine. So not too worried about that. Obviously, we're going with the Ravens here. Took down the Bengals, who, we expect them to be good still, I think, but they haven't looked good so far. And then the Colts obviously getting the, they got the one win over the Texans, and then the loss on the Jaguars, but they played well in that loss. So I think this could be closer than expected, but I do think the Ravens take the dub here. Next up, I actually changed my answer on this one. I had the Browns winning with Chubb out for the season with one of the grossest looking injuries this year so far. I mean, your knee is not and your leg is not supposed to bend like that. So that was no fun. But unfortunately, with Chubb out, Jerome Ford will be nice and has looked good when he's had to fill in, but he's still not Nick Chubb. So I'm taking Derrick Henry. The strength of the Browns has been their run game, and the Titans have had one of the best run defenses in the league. So unless Deshaun Watson can start slinging it and getting the ball to Amari Cooper and maybe Njoku or whatever they got to do to pass the ball more and hopefully have some success, because they have been relying on their run game. But I'm going to take the Titans. Titans at home. Cleveland kind of needs to be. The Steelers took them down last week, but it was in a close game. Steelers are going to be a tough team. So losing to the Steelers, I feel like it's more acceptable to pick the Titans, but this is another one I think could be a close game, being that there's not a lot of possibilities for close one. I guess this is another close one here between the Lions and the Falcons. Falcons have a lot of upside kind of on their high horse. Most of their game has been the run game, but it's been pretty tough to stop. And so if they can just keep doing that, they definitely could win this game, although I am going to pick the Lions on this one as we give the Lion the football helmet there. I think that with how great Detroit's offense has been, I don't know. I know the Falcons have. I've been saying they have an underrated secondary, so I could see how the Falcons could win this one. And I think this, if I'm going to get burned on one I thought was a fairly easy pick, I think it's this one. There's a couple other sleeper picks that I have and a couple crazy picks, just because a lot of these games are going to be, so one-sided to where it seems very obvious that one team would win. So I think I'm picking the Lions, though. I think Dan Campbell is not happy about last week losing to the Seahawks, and their team is still very talented. I know David Montgomery came out. I don't know if he's going to be playing this week, but Jahmyr Gibbs has at times looked better than Montgomery. We haven't seen him getting the workload that Monty has gotten, but Jahmyr Gibbs could have a breakout week. You got Gibbs versus Bijan Robinson, so an exciting running back matchup. But I am going to take the Lions here, although as I'm talking about it, I'm kind of convincing myself to pick the Falcons, but I usually get burned when I switch my picks. So you look at the matchups on this team, and you can make a lot of arguments that all around, especially considering how much better the Falcons' defense is, that they might be the better team. Next, we have Saints-Packers. I still don't believe in the Packers. I think that that win against the Bears was a fluke, so obviously we're picking the Saints here. The Saints are a really strong team. They have a very easy schedule, so I think it'll be tough to make a decision with them as far as like once we make it to the playoffs, because I'm assuming like there's no way in my mind that the Saints don't make the playoffs. Just again looking at their schedule, it's too easy for them to miss. But again the matchups. I think Jordan Love this is gonna be his first week where he struggles. He's missed a couple throws, but he's been pretty much on the money. He's 2 games with 3 touchdowns already, and he's pretty much done what he needs to do. It sounds like Aaron Jones might be back, but he's still injured, and I think he's going to be limited regardless, to where he's kind of he was your dominant offensive threat in week 1, and then week 2 they lose. Just by 1 point, and it was to the Falcons, but I think the Saints match up better here, and I think they'll be able to shut down the Packers on offense. Packers have only scored 24 and 38, which is probably a lot more than most people were expecting with Aaron Rodgers being gone. But I think this is probably their first week where they score under 20. I could definitely see this game being a little bit closer, but I definitely see the Saints winning maybe like 24-17 or 21-14. I think a 7-point game, something like that. But I definitely see the Saints winning this one. Next up, we have Jaguars and Texans. When I originally made this, I thought that this was going to be an easy pick for the Jaguars here, and I'm still picking the Jaguars. But with the Texans, C.J. Stroud has been slinging the ball, and he's had success even with his poor wide receivers. Nico Collins being the number 1, Robert Woods being the 2. It's not really something that I expected personally for how well they're doing, but the run game hasn't been working. Damon Pierce had a very rough week last week, only getting about 30 yards on 15 carries. So they needed to make it work somewhere. And the Texans have looked good in the games they've played, but their defense has kind of been one of their downfalls. Obviously, Stroud's made some mistakes, but I think knowing what we knew going into the season, I think we kind of assumed that Stroud would make some mistakes. And sure, their defense doesn't have a lot of talent, but they do have some talented pieces, and DeMeco Ryans has always been a good defensive coordinator. So I think, or for me at least, maybe you too expected that their defense would be a little bit better. So if their defense plays like their defense did in week 1, I think maybe they had a pretty good week 1. So they could probably keep it close, but I don't know. I think Stroud's still going to make some mistakes, whereas Trevor Lawrence isn't, and that's why the Jaguars are going to take that one. Next up, this is probably one of the easiest picks of the week. We've got the Dolphins are just going to take down the Broncos. There's not much more to it. The Broncos are going to take some time to get whatever they might have going, which I don't think is going to be much of anything. I don't think it matters that if Russ does high knees on the plane to Miami. I don't think Sean Payton is going to be able to outcoach Mike McDaniel here. The Dolphins' offense has just been too dominant, and their defense really hasn't been great. But you're also going up against Russell Wilson, who seems to be done. So he showed a little bit of improvements, and I hope he shows improvement throughout the year. I hope they have a good team, but I haven't seen it yet, and I think it's too early for the Broncos to beat the Dolphins. Next, we have the Chargers and the Vikings. I went back and forth on this one because both of these teams are teams that have been good in the past few years, they both happen to be 0-2, and they both happen to be super high-powered offenses that have had a lot of success, and their defense has struggled. A lot more of a surprise for the Chargers with all their big names: Khalil Mack, Bosa, Derwin James, J.C. Jackson. So, J.C. Jackson's still on the Chargers. But, all these talented players, and they just can't seem to do it. Khalil Mack didn't even show up last week. So, don't really know what they're going to be. I ended up taking the Chargers here just because I think the Vikings are going to want to bounce back win, and this one actually was very tough for me. I just don't. When I looked at the teams and I went, who could go 0-3? Because I don't. If you would have told me at the beginning of the season either of these teams were 0-3, I would have been very surprised. thought they would have had by this point at least one win. And I'm kind of, as I'm talking to myself, I'm kind of talking myself into the Vikings here because Kevin O'Connell's been a good coach so far, and Brandon Staley hasn't. And Kellen Moore hasn't really shown that he's going to be a good coordinator. We don't know if Eckler's playing. I think Eckler could be a deciding factor in this game. If Eckler plays, that offense is so much more, at least two-dimensional. With the passing game's always been good, but Eckler was very strong running the ball. And in week 1, Josh Kelly was also strong running the ball. But I think it was, we kind of know it was because of Eckler, because of not seeing him in week 2. So I'm going with the Chargers here. I think I'm getting this. I think I'm getting it wrong, but I'm gonna stick with my gut on this one. Same as that other game. I'm taking the Chargers. Next we have Patriots-Jets. If Rodgers was there, you're taking the Jets. If he's not, I'm taking the Patriots. I just think Mac Jones has been slinging the ball, just getting it to whatever receiver can do it. And although the Jets have a good defense, we haven't really seen a whole lot of the Patriots' run game. Nobody's really had like a breakout game by any means. So I think because of that, I think might be the game for the Patriots. I think Mac Jones is probably going to struggle trying to get the ball to Sauce, but I can't see Bill Belichick losing again. I just think this is a game that he wins. I don't know what their record is against the Jets. I just feel like historically they're better. And I just feel like they're going to win this game. I don't really have a good reason. I just haven't seen enough from the Jets offense that would tell me that, like, if we say both teams historically it's this season, but so far have had good defenses. The Patriots have played tough teams, but last year also had a good defense. And then you have the Jets have a good defense, but I just think Patriots offense has been playing better. So if I had to pick a reason, Patriots offense just so far looking better than the Jets is really the only reason. You had those great plays from Breece Hall in week 1, but we didn't see it again, and that's not something that I think we're going to see week in and week out. So I'm taking the Patriots on that one. Next up, Bills-Commanders. This is just quick and easy, taking the Bills. Commanders are going to take a long time, it seems like, to get to where they need to be. Defense still looks good. I don't think it's going to be enough to stop the Bills, and their offense really hasn't gotten going. I think that team could be scary. They talk about, like, last year the Lions. The Lions started off 1-6, and then they won a huge chunk of their last games. They went 8-2, right, in their last, something like that. Math. 8-2, I'm pretty sure it was towards the end. But I think the Commanders could be that team this year, where if they start off really rough, but if Sam Howell can get it together, I don't know about 8-2, but I think even if they have this rough start, I think they could end up being a good team down the road. Had some easy matchups, but this one just seems like a loss to me. Panthers Seahawks. I don't believe in the Panthers really whatsoever. I just don't think they don't have enough, so I'm going Seahawks. Seahawks looked really good against the Lions, who everybody thought was going to be great. You can't really do any of those. Well, this team beat that team, so they're better than this team, because so far I forgot who the Seahawks lost to week 1, but it was like game they shouldn't have lost, and then you have the Lions beat the Chiefs, and then the Seahawks beat the Lions, and then whatever team, it was some shitty team beat the Seahawks. You can't say that shitty team is better than the Chiefs for that reason. So Seahawks look good. Every position group, again, I think you're probably better. Maybe Carolina could have offensive line. I don't think so, not with really from what I've seen. But pretty much every position on the field, I think you could argue that the Seahawks are better. I guess maybe defensive line, you could probably argue that the Panthers is better. But I just, there's too many talented players on the Seahawks and not enough talent. Not really a great situation for Bryce Young to learn in. Kind of a similar problem you had with like Justin Fields. Never really had much talent to show what he can do. I think they could down the road, but it's been a struggle for the Panthers, and I think it's going to take a while. Maybe we could see something by the end of the season, but that's pretty much all I got. This is just so easy. Cowboys, this is, as I was saying earlier, there's so many games this week that are just very clear, like, Cowboys are absolutely going to beat the Cardinals. I think this could be another one where, they just won, 30-10 on the Jets. This could very well be 40-0 like week 1 against the Giants or something along those lines. So yeah, I think, I don't know what the spread is, but I would take the Cowboys, whatever it is. Cardinals have found ways to keep games close so far, only losing by 4 and losing by 3. I think it was 3. So kept games close so far. But yeah, Cowboys are just going to take this one. That's quick and easy. This is I think the trap game. So I thought back to 2017. The Bears started off 0-2, and they had Mike Glennon at quarterback. This is a horrible comparison, but they had the Ben Roethlisberger led Steelers week 3, and they were a powerhouse. They were one of the top teams in the NFL, and Mike Glennon and the Bears went in and they won week 3. Chiefs typically tend to play down to their opponents, so we're hoping, as a Bears fan, this is the craziest thing to pick. Oh yeah, I just think that the Bears are going to win. Yeah, but I think it's just going to be another one of those where I don't have a good argument for it. I'm really just, the reason that I'm picking the Bears, and it's not even because I'm a Bears fan, is I just think this could be a trap game. For the Chicago Bears to go into Arrowhead and take down the Chiefs would just be wild. But I feel like this week there's going to be that one upset. And with how the Chiefs play down to their opponents, and with how much the coaching staff for the Chicago Bears is on the chopping block, I just have a weird feeling that, like last year, I guess the Patriots weren't a great team, but the Bears just randomly dominated the Patriots. It was like 33 or 35-14. They just murdered them, and it wasn't even close, and nobody was expecting them to win. So I think it could be one of those, like the teams that Bears beat last year. Now that I think about it, I want to say it wasn't the Texans. It was the 49ers, the Patriots, and there was another team. And so, I don't know. It's very stupid. Like, I'm basically asking to get one wrong, but I feel like there's going to be an upset, and this obviously is the craziest one for there to be an upset. But as a Bears fan, I am pretty much dead for the team. I'm pretty much done with the team. I don't think they're going to win, and it would be very much so like the Bears to just beat the Chiefs somehow and give me all sorts of false hope. So then I ride with them for another 3 or 4 more weeks, and then want to jump off a bridge. So next we have the Steelers and the Raiders. Taking the Steelers here. Steelers looked good last week. Raiders looked bad last week. You could argue that they'd want to come back from that. The Raiders defense has been very spotty, and I think we're going to have an opportunity to see the Steelers offense strive. Obviously, they played well last week in the win over the Browns, but they still had the turnovers that the defense got, and the defense helped a lot. Jimmy G made some costly mistakes last week too, so I feel like that's something the Steelers defense could capitalize on. And, Josh Jacobs had -2 rushing yards last week, so I don't know what that's all about. I don't know what happened to him, but I think he's going to have a bounce back week, but I don't think it's going to be enough. And the Raiders are just a very questionable team. I think they could beat the Chiefs one week and they could lose to the Cardinals the next. To me, they're a very random, weird team, and I still don't know what to think of them. I wanted them to be like one of the sleeper teams, because if they can figure out how to do it. But Josh Jacobs had a pretty good week, just an average week first week. Then he had -2 rushing yards the following week. And Devontae Adams hasn't really been involved too much. And so it's an interesting situation. I think if the Raiders can get it all together, they could be good later, but not yet so far. Eagles-Buccaneers. This one's an easy pick too. The Eagles have found ways to screw up games, so I think Baker Mayfield could keep this one close, just because of the nature. The Buccaneers with Vita Vea. Watching him in the Bears game last week, he is an absolute monster. He was pushing. He had two, I think it was Cody Whitehair and Ja'Tyre Carter, center and guard for the Bears, were both blocking him, and he was just pushing both of them back. He looks kind of like a sumo wrestler, just with his stance and with how much power he has. But I think he could kind of blow up the short game that the Eagles have. I think single-handedly, which is a crazy take with how well the Eagles do it. But they still have, they have Shaq Barrett, they have Levante David, so they still have some talent over there that's going to stop the run, and that's the Eagles' strong suit. So if they can shut down DeAndre Swift and make them forced to pass the ball to Devontae Smith and AJ Brown, I think they could make some mistakes, and the Buccaneers could keep it close. But I'm still taking the Eagles. And then next up, I think this is one of the last ones. We got Rams and Bengals. I went back and forth on this one because this one's, I think, is close. I ended up picking the Bengals only because they're at home. I think the weather's supposed to be all right. They kind of have gotten shafted these past 2 weeks. I think there's a chance that Joe Burrow could play. At the time I'm recording this, I don't know if he's going to play, so obviously that does kind of affect my answer. But I feel like the Rams have just been doing too good, and the Bengals have just been doing too bad. And both of these teams are going to have a week where they go, "Oh yeah, we aren't the best team in the league right now," or the Bengals would go, "We aren't the worst team in the league." So it's going to be a wake up call week for both of them at some point, and it seemed convenient to just make it both this week. Kyron Williams has looked phenomenal for the Rams. Puka Nacua is an absolute animal. But the Bengals haven't really gotten Jamar Chase involved yet, and they haven't really gotten Joe Mixon as involved as I would think. He only had 13 carries week 1 and week 2. Exactly 13 carries both weeks. And I just think he deserves more than that if we're not having success passing the ball, because they haven't. Week 1, T. Higgins had no receptions on 8 targets. Week 2, he was the only one making plays. And then Jamar Chase has just been absent each week. So I don't know what's going to happen there, but I just feel like the Bengals are 0-2. The Rams are 2-0. I didn't expect either of that out of both teams. You could say maybe out of the Bengals just because historically they haven't been good out the gate. But you kind of assume that they're going to have their awakening, and that's why I'm taking the Bengals. I'm assuming they're gonna find their way, and they're gonna win. Again, it's this one. I said last week that if Kelsey plays, I would have taken the Chiefs, but I didn't want to change my pick or make it contingent on a player, so I stuck with the Jaguars. Got it wrong. I'm gonna stick with the Bengals on this one. I think it is contingent on Joe Burrow. Off the record. Because I am keeping track of my prediction record this year. So far, it's pretty good. We're at least above average. So, this final pick, taking the Bengals over the Rams. Let me know what you think I got right and what I got wrong. Pretty much just tell me that I got the Bears-Chiefs game wrong. But if I prove you wrong, you're going to hear about it next week. So thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. I want to do more and more of these videos. I have some ideas. I don't know if I want to do power rankings. It would be odd to start it late in the week, but I do want to start something like that. And then I have some trivia videos that I've been working on, and I just kind of want to get all the kinks sorted out here. But I do plan on doing that. I love NFL trivia, so if you have any recommendations or any advice, any comments on the video, anything that you think I'm doing wrong or that I should do better, let me know. And thank you. Have a great day.